Right, here we go. What's up?
Hi.
Uh,
Happy Saturday.
right. So just a pop-up one. I see you, Coach Ken, in the comments, Jake Chapman. Um, Coach, I'm sorry that I probably should have let you know that this one was coming up, but it was kind of like a pop-up podcast. So it's just something we decided to talk about, you know, on the flip because we happen to hear it today.
Mhm.
So, and what it is that we happen to hear is that, a lot of people are talking about how your kid doesn't look autistic, right?
Yep.
We know he's autistic, but your kid doesn't look autistic or doesn't look neurodivergent or whatever.
Mhm.
It is, and that can be a little difficult, right?
Yeah, I think so because, the first question I think that comes up is like, what is autism supposed to look like? I know that before, years ago, decades ago, and like autism looked a certain way, or like cerebral palsy looks a certain way. Somebody that has a cerebral palsy, that's a physical disability, you notice that, you can see that. But over time, autism now is on a spectrum. And the reason it's on a spectrum is because there's a spectrum of challenges, supports, needs, that kind of stuff. So when I used to hear that before, we found out our son was autistic, I always kind of wondered, like, what does someone with autism look
The
like?
number one thing I think I hear all the time is that, well, your kid can make contact.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
okay, my kid can make eye contact,
Right.
but I think that was the barrier for entry.
Yeah, at one point, like
Yeah.
not being able to make eye contact, stimming.
Yeah.
If you don't know what stimming is, sometimes it's the flapping of the hands, it's a jumping up and down as you're flapping hands, it's
Or loud noises.
spinning in circles, loud noises,
Yeah.
depending on what kind of stim um, that person needs, that child needs, to help regulate their nervous system. And that used to be a big one too.
And just to clarify, our son is 6, he'll be 7 next month.
Hmm.
So we've gone through a couple of different ranges of his growth and how he's progressed
Hmm.
through the years.
Hmm.
Um,
But remember, he was just diagnosed last summer
yeah,
as autistic.
yeah.
Before, so our son got evaluated, I mean, during COVID, so it was over Zoom at about 2.5. He got evaluated for speech therapy because he wasn't
A
really speaking. He wasn't, I mean, we could understand his lingo
and to
and
clarify, he really wasn't speaking.
he wasn't.
He was,
Yes. Yep.
sign language. We had taught him, so he could communicate that way. He had words that we knew that if he spoke them to other people that they wouldn't understand what they were.
Right. And we thought like he was speaking. But
Yeah.
then we looked back on videos and was like, wow, he really wasn't. But we felt that he was because we could understand him and it felt like to us that there were more, like there were more words, there were more sounds, there was, that kind of stuff. So we felt like that he was.
We felt like his sign language words
Mhm.
were like
Right.
speaking words, that those counted,
Right.
right, as words. If
Yep.
if you speak Spanish and you have words in Spanish, those words count.
Right. Right.
So for us, it was,
He was moving
well,
forward.
yeah, his sign language counts
Yeah.
as words. So
He just chose to speak in sign
instead of,
more and, again, not in sentences, but words like
yeah,
more or food or
water,
water, that kind of stuff.
please,
All
thank
done.
you.
That was
Yeah,
a big one. All done.
done.
Um, so we felt like that he was making progress. Well, he went to his, 2-year checkup and the pediatrician suggested again. And also something to bring up too is that it was also brought up on his first year too, that he wasn't speaking like he should. And they already felt like that his speech was delayed.
Yeah.
So then
And of course, we had the feeling, no, it's not.
mhm,
Of course, you don't want to, like, that's a natural reaction of your parent because then it becomes something that you did wrong.
Yeah.
as a parent.
Yeah. But
And
also our biggest question was, well, at 1, what is he supposed to be saying?
yeah, we had no
Like
barometer for
how
that.
much is he supposed to be saying? Because to us, he was saying letters, he was saying numbers, he was saying words,
Yeah, he
like
could count to like 50 and
right,
he knew his ABCs and could sing the ABC song. That
right.
was something he had memorized.
Yeah,
And he could write them too. It wasn't,
yeah.
it's he would we got those crayons that you can write in the shower
Mhm,
and he would
mhm.
write his ABCs in the
And draw
shower
yeah,
and
that
his
was li
numbers in the shower.
exactly.
So
Yeah, so we felt like that he was progressing.
progressing normally.
Right. And so when it was brought up again at 2, we were like, "Okay, maybe we should," because we were looking into getting him into some sort of preschool program to start socializing and, um, being around other kids and starting to learn outside of just us. So, we had gotten him an evaluation, on Zoom because COVID happened and everything shut down.
And still no one, I mean, some people were saying autism, but most people, again, that knew him, friends of ours, other adult friends were basically just saying, no, he can make eye contact. He's not autistic. You don't have to worry about that. That's not a
Mhm.
thing that you have to freak out about.
Right.
And so we just in our minds, no, he's not autistic. There's,
Yeah. Yeah, and to know, like you said, like, autistic and autism had been thrown out around a couple times
yeah.
in pretty much every single one of um, his checkups, his yearly checkups. But again, we both were like, "I don't think so. I don't think that he is autistic." And, I very much was at a place where I guess you could say, like, might have denied a little bit because I thought he was progressing fine, and I didn't see that maybe he could be struggling more than I thought, you
And
know?
And if you fast forward, I mean, fast forward a little bit to preschool,
Mhm.
right? He went to preschool right as we were coming out of
COVID.
uh the the lockdowns. I mean, there were still mask mandates and all that crap, but
Mhm.
it was right after we were coming out of lockdowns.
Mhm.
And he started having all kinds of behaviors at school that he wasn't having at home. And that was, I mean, for me, I can say I didn't know that it was a behavior. I just thought it was, a regular kid doing things and but it was a behavior because he couldn't express how he felt.
Mhm.
So, and that I think that was the number one thing I learned when he went to preschool. We don't have to dive all the way in there, but there were definitely behaviors in there that we were concerned about and we're like, "Hey, our kid doesn't do this at home. Why are you calling me every day to tell me that he's doing it in school with you?"
Yeah. Yeah, that was the big eye opener for me too, is that all of a sudden our kid went to school and it went from just being a speech delay. So
Yeah.
then after his evaluation, he did get diagnosed with severe speech delay, but that was it.
Yeah.
That was the only diagnosis that they did. But again, too, it was specifically for speech. When he got evaluated, it was a speech evaluation. It wasn't an ADOS, it wasn't for OT or PT or anything like that. It literally was for speech. So then all of a sudden he gets to school and the first year wasn't as bad. I give a lot of credit to his first year at preschool. She did great. She did start to share with us that he needed to be more on routine, more structure. It started to be very difficult for him to focus and pay attention. And then the behaviors kind of started, but I don't remember them being as bad the first year
But
as they were
that's
the second year.
But I think that's also the structure, I mean, for any child is important.
Mhm.
Like, children need structure,
Yeah.
and he didn't have any, but especially for autistic kids, they need, like, structure down to the time. Uh,
Mhm.
he used to be able to look at the clock and be like, "We have to do this now,"
Yes.
or, "It's time to go to do this," or, "We're gonna be late to go do this," and then he would get very flustered and very anxious
Yes.
thinking that he is gonna be late.
Yeah. Yeah,
And s
routine was a big one that he struggled with a lot. when he was younger.
And it wasn't until after he felt very comfortable in the routine that he had without, the craziness of change or things getting altered or whatever, that teachers were able to push him to teach him coping skills for that.
Mhm.
And it is, you can do that, but they have to feel safe in their environment. And if you have no structure for them to feel safe in general, then trying to push them outside of their comfort zone becomes more difficult or almost impossible.
Mhm. Mhm.
And to see him now be able to do that is is very exciting. He really doesn't have too many issues with change anymore, not the way that he used to.
Mhm.
You can explain it to him now. Like, it's you know, there's very few moments where it's like, "Oh, I have to come pick you up early, so you're not gonna go get to do this, which you normally get to go do." And he won't have a behavior or an anxious attack about it. He's just like, "Okay, tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. It's fine."
Right. Right.
But that's not a that's an actual thing.
Mhm.
They just they can't, it's hard for them to regulate themselves when their day changes and they're expecting their day to be a certain way.
Yeah, and that was something that, um, Beatty really struggled with when he was younger, like but also too, when he got into that 2nd year of preschool, all of a sudden we're hearing all these things that, like you said, never was brought up in a conversation at all. All of a sudden, he was on a sensory diet. So, sensory pretty much means, like, there's a dysregulation in the nervous system, and the sensory is trying to get them to be able to regulate their system. So, for instance, there was a time when our son had a small weight vest on. He would have weights on his ankles. He would have what they call a wiggly chair. So it's like a circle and it wiggles to try to get him to sit. He would be able to go into a sensory room or a sensory corner where there was padded blocks, that there was squishies, anything to try to help him regulate himself so that he could focus in school. I mean, and it for me, it felt like it went 0 to 100.
It was
It
so many
it was
things, yeah.
so many things, and he was having so many behaviors that, again, never was something that we experienced to that level. Now, we always say that, like, the baby and I used to butt heads all the time. Like, it was tough. Like, and I would be the one that he would hit. I would be the one that he would headbutt. Like, and was it like every single day? No, but in the brunt of it, we have
When he would get
when he
frustrated
would get
and you were
frustrated,
frustrated,
right? Like, but he wouldn't do that to you. So it was one of those things where, like, we're starting to kind of see changes in him of what is going on, and then at some point we felt like, okay, well, now he's in school, so he's learning behavior. There was an incident where he bit somebody, but he had never done that before.
no,
But he learned it from a friend that was in school that was known as a biter.
yeah.
And there were incidents where we would be around other friends, and again, certain friends were considered biters, and then Garrett really realized that he doesn't like that, so he
Bit the kid back.
or stopped doing it, but
Yeah.
that wasn't, like, his thing. Another thing that he used to do is called eloping, which means that he would leave and run
When he was
when
uncomfortable,
he
yeah.
was uncomfortable and wanted to get out, and so he did that a couple times in school. Um, but yeah, preschool is when we really, really saw the behaviors and stuff like that, but also too, when he was in preschool around professionals that we thought were there was the suggestion of getting evaluated for OT. So they evaluated him for OT and he got OT services. Fantastic. Then they were like, well, he's got speech and he has OT. Why would we not evaluate him for PT? Fantastic. He's in there. There's people there that are going to help him. So then he got evaluated for all three of those. But there was no conversation brought up about an ADOS test
For autism.
for autism.
Yeah.
There was no conversation with us about we think that he might be on the spectrum. So until the very end of it, all of a sudden, that's when you were saying we were getting these phone calls every single day. And what felt like you're telling me that my kid is a bad kid,
we
but
knew he wasn't.
he's not a bad kid. What he's saying to you is that he needs more support.
Yeah.
And so when we're saying he needs more support, they're calling us to ask us, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? What do you do at home? And we constantly kept telling them he doesn't act like this at home. He has challenges, but he doesn't act like this at home. So,
Because and for me, that leads to the communication aspect,
mhm,
especially for kids with autism, for anybody with autism.
mhm,
The literal versus the emotional communication is very different.
mhm,
And especially thinking outside of themselves, they're very literal communicators. So, for instance, if if he, jumps on my leg or jumps on me or whatever and it hurts me and I don't make a physical response to that so that he can see that I'm hurt,
mhm.
he's going to think I'm fine.
And that
And
you're
he's
playing.
and
Yeah.
he's going to continue on to do it.
Mhm.
If I make an emotional or if I make a physical response to it like, "Oh, Garrett," or "Oh, that hurt," then he can hear my voice. He can see me like wince. He can see a physical reaction to what he just did and understands that, okay, that hurt mommy.
Yeah, and he immediately says
And then he's like,
sorry.
I'm sorry and
Yep.
whatnot. But
Empathetic and showing signs that he understands that that was hurt, that hurt.
but if I just turn my face away and go,
Mhm.
and then turn back around and keep playing with him, he has no idea that he did something that hurt me.
Right. Right.
He just doesn't understand that. It's not he there's certain emotional responses that you want, and he can only do one at a time.
Right.
If there's more levels to that emotional response, he cannot understand that or grasp that unless you tell him that.
Right, and that was also part of what I was always wondering when it came to, teachers or pediatricians or therapists and stuff like that. It felt like to me that the expectation of Bede was very, very high.
Yes.
And so my question always is, are other kids significantly ahead of my kid? Because the kids that I was around and I saw, and I remember growing up that, yeah, you had one or two kids that were like way, way ahead of people, ahead of other kids. But the expectation in these tests and in schools and whatever, I'm like, you're expecting my kid to be able to do this at 3? You're expecting my kid to understand all of this at 3? And so I always wondered, like, and I think that probably that was one of the things that was hardest for me to wrap my head around when they finally kept bringing up, "Hey, I think he might be on the spectrum. It might be a good idea to get an evaluation." So we finally were able to get I think it was a behavioral pediatrician to do an evaluation, but not for autism.
Yeah, it was for
It was for
ADHD.
ADHD.
Yep.
So again, all these expectations just felt so big. So we were like, okay, it doesn't help. It's just to go meet with someone, they meet our kid to get information because our biggest thing always is to advocate for him and to provide the best support system that he can possibly have so that he can thrive no matter
Well,
what.
he's first of all, for his age, he's super tall. So
Mhm.
people think he's older than he is already.
Yep.
He is super smart
Yep.
as far as book learning and reading and math and, you know, he's super smart.
Mhm.
So he already sounds further ahead than he should be.
Yeah.
So people expect more from him
Mhm.
because he's smart like that.
Yeah, and now when we
He
tell
just
them
he
that
taught his teacher the other day how to play chess.
right.
It's not, you know what I mean? He he's smart in a way that outperforms his peers, and his size in itself, he's
I'll pro
exponentially
Yeah.
taller than his peers.
Mhm.
So people think he's older, people think he's, and the expectations for him rise
Always.
in an unfair way. So that's where I say people always want to say he doesn't look autistic. Okay, but if you talk to him and ask him to understand you on an emotional level or comprehend feelings past 1 or 2 rungs, he's not going to.
Yeah, or yeah.
You really are gonna have to sit and explain it to him.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's not something that goes away. That is something that will always happen. It's an everyday thing.
Right.
He might memorize because their memories are insane.
Yes.
And it is very possible for them to memorize a response to an emotional situation.
Mhm.
And they can memorize that initial emotional response. But if you go past that into the next rung of your emotional response, they haven't memorized that, so they can't respond to that. They
Yeah.
get stuck and you can visibly see them get stuck,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's You can see their mind churning
Yeah.
for the answer they want to answer you, but they haven't memorized how and they don't know how, or they haven't been in this situation before to be able to react to it.
Right.
And
Right.
it's very difficult.
Mhm. Yeah, and, he is he's very smart in math. He's very good with numbers, and he's very good at memorizing stuff. And so when people talk to him now and we talk about the fact that he was severely speech delayed and didn't talk until much later, people look at us like that can't be, because now we joke that we were worried that he was never going to talk and now he doesn't shut up.
Yeah.
Like, and I say that lovingly as
No, you
possible,
can't turn
but
there's no
you
light
can
switch to
no.
turn him off
The
now.
minute that he wakes up to the
Yep.
minute he goes to bed, he is talking and talking and talking and talking. And it's a beautiful thing to see
Yeah.
how far he has grown, because he really has. You know, but reading a book and being able to tell you what that book said
Said.
or what happened in that book is now where Beatty's biggest challenge is. It's not that he can't read the words. It's called decoding. So if I'm reading something, you're decoding how to say the word. But if you don't understand what that word means, you're not going to understand what the story is telling you. So he's brilliant at decoding, and and
But
like you
no,
said,
but he can read what Piggy did,
yes.
but he
Yeah,
has no idea what Piggy felt. If
exactly.
you ask him what Piggy felt when she touched the water or picked
Mhm.
up the
Right.
rock or
Yep.
did what, he has no idea how she felt, but he knows what she did.
Yes. Yes.
So
Or why he doesn't know why,
why she picked it up.
or sometimes how, or you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
He just knows that she did it.
Right, because that's what the words say.
Right.
So Piggy picked up a rock. Great.
He's not gonna infer anything.
No. No. So that is where
Struggles
that's
are.
where his challenges are now when it comes to that. But also, if you listen to him, Beatty very much wants to talk about what he wants to talk. But if you really, really listen, 90% of the time he's reciting something that he has seen.
Also, so you're not wrong. It's something, I mean, at least I think you're not wrong. It's always something that he's interested in, right?
Yes.
It's
Yep.
something that he's very passionate about. It's
Yep.
something that he loves to do,
Yep.
whether it's chess or whichever his favorite books are,
Yep.
or building. He likes to build things a lot. Um, he he'll very much talk to you about that, and he very much wants to engage with you on the things that he likes to do and the things
Yes.
that he's interested. If he's not interested in the things that you're talking about, he A has no idea what you're talking about, and B doesn't care.
Mhm.
So it you know what I mean?
Yes.
There's no, it's not that he doesn't like you or that he doesn't want to spend the time with you, but he very much wants
He wants to do what I believe
what he's
in
interested in.
yeah, what he's interested in. I also believe too, in many conversations that I've had with his teachers and his support or whatever, is also what he feels the most confident talking about.
Yes.
Because now that he has his voice, he wants to be able to show off that he has his voice and he has knowledge and he has something to say. Before he didn't have the words to say what he wanted to say. Now he has words to say and he has things to share. And so when he wants to do something, like you said, that he's very interested in and very passionate about, he wants you to hear it. And so a lot of what you and I work with him on is that it's not that you can't tell me what you want, but if I ask you to do something or we're talking about something else, we're doing homework, we're talking about, I don't know, cleaning his room or getting dressed or something like that, he immediately, if he doesn't want to do it, which is normally the case, he'll immediately start talking about something else. And we have to redirect and say, okay, baby, hold on. Let's finish this first. And then we can talk about that. And very much getting him to stay in the process of what the step was before that.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from that is the words that he has. I mean, he has all the words,
Mm-hmm.
but the words that he knows how to use and the further in the process in the conversation that he can have with you are about things that he likes to do.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have the sentences and whatnot for things that he doesn't know about and doesn't like to do.
Yep. Yep.
So, and he honestly, he doesn't wanna ask you about them. He doesn't wanna find out more about what you like to do. He just likes to do what that emotional capacity isn't there.
And he likes to just ask why.
Yeah.
Why?
So,
That is the thing. Why?
it's not at all that he doesn't wanna spend time with you or he doesn't wanna be around you, but that emotional capacity isn't there to be like, "Oh, you like whatever something that he doesn't like.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? How do you do that? What that's he
It's
just want
immediately, well, I want to tell you about
about
Bluey.
this.
I'm
I
going to
want
tell
to
you
tell you
about
about
Bluey,
yeah.
or I'm going to tell you about Mario, or I'm going to tell you about trains or cars or something. Like I want to tell
He's
you
going to tell
that.
you about Formula 1.
Yeah.
He's not going to tell you he's not going to want to talk to you about baseball.
No.
He'll tell you about football all day.
Oh, he's starting to talk about baseball a
A
little
little
bit,
bit.
little bit. But I
So
think that that comes with finding friends and meeting friends that have different interests. And, and I'm starting to see a little bit more of interest in, like, he'll say something like baseball. And I'm like, well, who told you about baseball? And I think his friend Kelvin plays baseball.
they do
So
parrot
it's
their
like,
peers. I see that too. He is
mm-hmm,
parroting his peers more now,
mm-hmm.
especially for responses for to things.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with you on that. I do see that in him, and that is very exciting to watch him do.
I mean, we just think about where he was and how far he's come, and it's just amazing.
And the number one fear for me was always talking like, I always talked for him
Mhm.
because I was afraid of how other people would perceive him or if other people would take the time because of how much patience it takes and how much empathy and understanding you have to be able to see the brilliance that they do have.
Mhm.
I was always afraid that people wouldn't do that, so I spoke for him, which
Mhm.
was not he's gotta figure out how to get his points across to people, and either they're gonna listen to him and have the patience for him and have it, or they're not.
Mhm.
And so that was my biggest fear with his speech and his autism was that I can't yeah, I want to explain things to people so that they don't not understand like I want them to understand him and
And be nice.
right. And
Mhm.
just that's not he might say it that way, but possibly you took it a ridiculous way and that's not how he meant it.
Mhm.
And I want to explain that to you, but also if you're a person that's not willing to take the time to figure that out and get to know him, then also that's, kinda he's I also have to allow him to figure out his way in the world,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
that's always hard to stop doing that. Going back to what you said about, he is a bigger kid and people just assume that he's older. I had an incident when he was younger. I was at a playground and we were playing and I was talking to him like I think he was, I don't know, 3.5. And a mother looked at me and she was like, "Why are you speaking to your 5-year-old that way?" And I'm like, "Because he's not 5.
Yeah.
Because he's not 5.
And
He
that
might
breeds
look like
fear.
he's 5, but he's not 5."
Yeah.
And she's looking at me and she's like, "But he's so big." And I'm like, "It doesn't matter. He's not 5."
And you want to
You know?
immediately jump and protect him because
Mhm.
he's your kid and you don't want him to you want to speak for him so either he doesn't get in trouble or people don't misunderstand him or all of these things that could possibly happen in the span of a conversation because we all know in this day and age so many things can happen in the span of a conversation that are wrong
Right.
and you want to jump in and protect them.
Mhm.
You want to jump in and save them and you kind of can't. You kind of have to let them find their footing, but and that was the scariest thing for me was kind of letting go and letting him navigate as much as as much as is appropriate for a 7-year old.
Right.
I'm not talking about an adult. I'm talking about a 7-year old. So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, and that's the thing too. Yeah, with certain people, we do allow the opportunity for him to figure it out. One of the biggest fears that we have now is that he is so social.
yeah,
He is so social and he will walk up to anybody if we were not paying attention and he knows nothing about personal space. One of the scariest things, and I just say that just because I'm his mom. I knew he was in a safe space or whatever. Well, we were at the gym and I literally turned my back for 2 seconds to put my wraps away, and by the time I looked back, he was sitting on some guy's lap.
yeah.
And I was like, no, like, we don't do this." You know what I'm saying? And then there were times
It's social nuance.
it's just he just immediately or he reaches for people because he wants to show now that he has his voice, he wants to tell everyone and show everyone and see this and see what I like. It's so great. It's so great. So he reaches for people. So that is always scary for me too. And those times we will redirect him to come back to the table or come back to where we are, whatever we're doing, because that is the scariest thing is that it's you can't.
Jan Clark, always my worry. Adam is so trusting.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
That's what we
Our
deal
kid
with
too.
now is that he just will go up to anybody, reach for anybody, get very close to someone. Like that's why when we go places, like I still hold his hand.
Yeah.
I
And we
keep him close because I'm like, you are gonna go say hello to somebody. It's not that I don't give him his space to
But we've
look.
also raised and fostered a very independent, confident kid.
He's very
He's very
independent.
social, he's very confident, he is, and he will just go up to anybody.
Yep.
And it that yeah, helicopter
Be
parent.
proud, Jan. So are we.
I try to
Well, we were
I
talking.
try to balance it, but at the same time, I don't give a crap. You know what I
No,
mean? I'm
we were talking about that
yeah,
on another podcast or
I'm
whatever.
on
Where
top.
like,
Yeah.
I I mean, I know that it has always been called a helicopter parent and whatever, but I'm a parent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
Like
don't even know if
I'm a
that's being a
parent.
helicopter parent. That's just being a parent
I'm a parent that is paying attention to what my kid is doing,
who my kid is talking
to
to,
supporting
where
my
he is.
kid
Yeah.
and being all up in his business and what he's doing and teaching him and talking to him. And another thing that you brought up too is Beta used to had a hard time with routine. It had to be the same all the time. We purposely change his routine
Yeah.
last minute. There are some days that I go early to pick him up from where he goes.
If he has not gymnastics, but like if he's at one of his
Yeah,
programs or
like if
something,
he
we'll
has
go
a
get him
program,
early. Yeah.
sometimes I will pick him up early. And he's like, "Why are you here so early?" And so then we'll have a conversation in the car.
Yeah. The first time you did it, he threw a fit.
Yeah.
Not a crazy fit, but
No.
just he was crying. He didn't know why he had to go. He was so confused.
Mhm.
But you kind of have to do that.
Right. But the thing is too is that something that's important to us is that, and we've always said this, even before he was diagnosed and then much more firm since he has been diagnosed, last summer, is that we have to parent our kid even more than a typical kid because it's like I'm not going to baby him and not teach him what's right and what's wrong. And I'm not going to encourage him to speak how he feels. And I'm also not gonna allow things that are going to potentially put him at risk
What
later.
you mean is you're going to tell him if he says something that could possibly be hurtful.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you're
right
gonna
and
let
right
him
and
know
wrong.
that, yeah.
No, you cannot run across the street. No, you have to hold my hand. No, there are rules. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't feel bad about that. I feel like we would be doing a disservice to him because eventually at the end of the day, he's going to be an adult.
It's not a crutch, but at the same time, you do have to know that he has autism. Like, you do have to understand that.
It's an understanding, yeah.
If you could take him completely out of context if you don't know that he has autism, but also that's okay too. If you do take him completely out of context, then fine, that's fine. But we have done the best that we can to teach him how to navigate this world in a way that makes it as safe for him as possible.
Mhm.
And the I go back to this all the time. It's the fear as a parent that somebody else isn't going to understand your kid or isn't going to be able to um ha- put and they don't have to. I'm not saying anybody owes it to him because he has autism. I'm not saying that at all. If you don't want to put the time into him and you're just like, "Oh, he's annoying, like I'm going to go away." Like that's fine too. Absolutely. But if you're going to get to know him and you're going to be a part of his life and you're going to have to know that he has autism because the way that he communicates is not the way that everybody else communicates. And honestly, typical people don't communicate very well at this point either.
No.
So it's
We all could use some
yeah,
practice.
I mean, it's not there's you're not gonna tell him something and be like, "Hey, this is inappropriate," and then 2 minutes later, he's not gonna do it again. Like, it takes a minute to get him to understand things,
Mhm.
and that's okay.
But it does for it
Yeah, I know. There's
like
a lot of people on
like
yeah.
patience is good for everybody. Like patience is good for, again, there are some things that are like black and white, literally like a stop sign means stop and look. A red light means you can't go. Agree, like those are literal, like that's the rule, follow the rule, whatever. But other things like trying to figure it out and try to navigate the day to day and what he needs and what he doesn't need, and that takes patience too.
Don't use
Like
the stoplight rule. Sevon's gonna tell you that it was a social construct that we all agreed to do.
whatever. That's fine.
But I know what you're
That's
saying.
fine. In this world, it's as literal as it comes, and I will teach my child
Yes,
this social
I get it,
construct.
yeah.
I have drank the water. You're
But
welcome. So
but, yeah, no, he for him, it can be very black and white.
Mhm,
For us, it's not always.
mhm.
Sometimes I kind of like how black and white it is for him because it's just so much easier, but at the same time, there is nuance, and
He's also young.
yeah,
He's also young, and for us, um, I mean, getting his diagnosis brings up a lot of feelings and whatever, but at the end of the day, I was at a point where I was able to receive it for just what it was, which was information.
yeah,
And if I didn't do the shit that I needed to do and if I didn't do the work I needed to do on myself, I wouldn't have been able to receive it for exactly what it was, which is information. And now with his diagnosis, he has the opportunity to get more support. And who doesn't want their kid to get more support?
yeah,
He
of
needs more
course.
support. Okay, great. Let's figure it out. How do we get him more support? But
And if your kid,
it doesn't change who he is. He's an
if
amazing kid.
if you're the kid that doesn't have support
Mhm.
and wasn't diagnosed and doesn't have all of these, great support systems that maybe they have now that they didn't have, because my cousin, probably should have. I mean, I know there's no Asperger's anymore, but probably at the time should have been diagnosed with that. He's pretty close to little G, but yeah, he's pretty close to little G, and he's an adult in the world, working, has a job, whatever. But his social nuance and understanding of social nuance is not great,
Mhm.
and It does. It takes a special kind of person to be able to interact and get close with someone that doesn't have that type of nuance. It just is out there. So,
Mhm.
if my kid doesn't look autistic, okay, fine. He doesn't look autistic, but if you think he's not or you don't understand what that means, then you're gonna look at him like a typical kid and think he's just a weirdo. He's not just a weirdo.
That's possible too.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He has autism. There's a spectrum there. There's something there. He's not, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
There are typical people out there that are just weirdos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody find their own weirdo, but you know what I mean? Uh,
Yep.
being like he doesn't look autistic, that's unfair.
Well, and that statement for a lot of moms, because I follow a lot of moms on social media that share their stories of their autistic children. And when I say the spectrum is the spectrum, like it's all different spectrums, completely nonverbal, kids like beta, um, older children who have much more severe behaviors. Um, and first of all, I think it's extremely brave to share
All the stories.
all the stories, no matter where you are on the spectrum. But one of the things that they say mostly is that statement, but he doesn't look autistic, is one of the most hurtful, angry statements that you can say, because as mothers, we are with our kid every single day and we know the challenges that our kids have every single day. And then you have people that say, well, he doesn't look autistic, so why are you doing
So he should
this?
just act right.
He should act right. And they
What?
completely challenge your parenting and criticize you for having
Yeah, you didn't discipline your kid enough. You
right,
didn't tell your kid this enough. You didn't
right.
socialize your
Take,
kid enough.
you
You didn't
know,
d
give them organic food. That's great
Yeah.
if your kid eats good food. Our kid doesn't. And we do the best that we can,
We
and
have to hide the good food. Like,
we've been able to
it's
figure
a
out.
texture thing. He doesn't There are textures, and it's not that okay, you can find a texture that he likes, and he just likes that texture. He might like that texture this week, but doesn't like it next week.
Yes, he does that to me all the
He
time.
he likes blueberries now, but it could be 3 days from now, and he won't like blueberries anymore, and he likes
Oh, he doesn't like blueberries now.
Yeah, I know,
He
but
literally will tell me that he liked blueberries when he was 4.
yeah.
I'm like, "Great. That's fantastic."
So it's not a thing where they're being picky either. Like, you can watch him if he tries to eat something that he doesn't like, like, he'll gag. It's
Mhm.
not the gag reflex will kick in. It's
Mhm.
not like he's just playing with us.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like just, "Oh, I'm just messing with mom today so I can eat Reese's Pieces." It's
Right.
not that,
Right.
because believe me, we don't do that.
No, and that's what I'm
The
saying.
kid's only had water and milk his entire life. It's not like we're sitting here just giving him Capri Suns and whatever and just being like, "Oh, whatever."
Right.
It will happen. He literally just there will be a point in time where he tries to eat something, he'll gag on it and just, "Mom, I don't like that anymore."
Yeah, and we do the best that we can with the things that he does like,
We can
uh
still hide vegetables and protein in homemade waffles. That's about the most consistent thing that we can do
yeah.
at this point, but everything changes all the time when it comes to food for him. So
Yeah, and I'll never forget, I was in the grocery store and I still openly buy my son pouches, like baby pouches for his.
they're not baby pouches because I've seen grown ass games
Right,
athletes eat them
right,
at the games.
right.
Like, it's
They're not meals, they're not the
yeah.
meals, they're literally the
No, they eat those
vegetables,
green pouches that we
the
have.
applesauce ones that he had
Yeah,
that he
they
gets. Yep,
literally
yep,
I saw them in the behind the
they all
scenes.
eat them.
Yeah.
They all eat them.
So
But I'll never forget it because when I went to the grocery store, I get a lot of them because right now that is the only way that I can get different kinds of vegetables and fruit into his body, which is the most important thing. I've done my research and find the healthiest, cleanest versions that I can find. And I was at the register and I was, going through the line and everything like that. And one of the associates that we knew, super loud, goes, why are you buying all of those pouches? And I said, and then he cut me off and he's like, do you have another kid? And I was like, no, they're for him. Well, why would he have them? He's old enough. And I literally looked at him and I was like, because
Ken,
he
what's up?
because he likes them. What do you mean? Why does he
Yeah.
eat them? But stuff like that is
I would love it if he would put back a chicken. I would love it if he would eat,
one
freaking
protein. I just need one.
we used to be
One
able to
protein and
hide
protein in
an
actual
egg
form.
in a grilled cheese, but we can't even get that in there anymore.
I can't make grilled cheese at home.
Yeah. So
I have tried, and I cannot make grilled cheese at home because he will not eat it. He will only eat grilled cheese from Panera. That's
yeah,
literally all I can do is get him grilled cheese from
Judy
Panera.
Reed, you right. Mind your own business and bag my groceries.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
girl, I
You
literally
right.
was like,
You right. That's what's up.
I just look and
Yeah.
I'm exactly mind your own business. And I think it's also different when, and I know we talk about this a lot, even with adults, like the delivery with some things just matters. And when you constantly have people looking at you and saying, well, your kid doesn't look autistic, so I don't understand. If they're coming from a genuine place, like they're actually curious to kind of hear about him, that's one thing. But most moms that I have seen share their story, it's coming from a place of judgment. Your kid is on the screen too much. You're using the fact that he's autistic as an excuse. When in reality, for some moms, giving a kid a tablet is a form of communication between the child and the parent. It is also possibly the 20 minutes that a mother can sit down and not be butting heads with her child. Maybe it's the only way a child could eat. For a while, Beatty couldn't eat unless he had his tablet to sit down
Yeah.
and eat
Or poop.
or poop.
I mean, he is a
I
good,
mean, the rest of
the way
us
that men take their phone into the bathroom or take a newspaper. My
newspaper.
grandfather used to take a newspaper into the
Yep.
bathroom, and what he's got to take his tablet, sit on the pot, and take his time with it. I get it. I'm not mad at it. It's fine.
You fight your own battles. Fight your own battles. And at the end of the day, what works best for my kid isn't always going to work best for someone else's kid. And if we're able to have those type of conversations, especially when it comes to autism, and reminding everybody that it literally is a spectrum, when he was diagnosed as autistic, so many things intertwine, and I think that that's why in his case, maybe it might have taken longer for him to actually get diagnosed, because it's like, he's ADHD and he's severely speech delayed. So that could
I'm not
be
gonna
this,
lie.
but it could be that.
Yeah,
So
I'm not gonna lie. I went there with that and just thought like, hey, these other diagnoses, the speech delay and the ADHD, like he'll be fine. Once he learns how to speak, he'll be fine. I went down that road. I'm not gonna say that I didn't.
yeah.
I was like, no, and I did the same thing. Like he makes eye contact. He's not autistic. He,
Yep.
like I had to go down that road too. It's not there's no one way as a parent to figure this out. They don't come with roadmaps. They don't come with booklets.
No.
Every kid is different and faces their own challenges.
And it's not easy. I know I said that like I was in a different space to be able to accept his diagnosis when we initially had it. It still doesn't mean that other feelings don't come up.
Of course.
Like there were a lot of feelings that came up when he was diagnosed as autistic and severely speech delayed and ADHD, and then constantly being told that my kid's having behaviors and he's a bad kid and all of this type of stuff and whatever. There's a lot of emotions that go into that. But we're human.
Yeah.
We're a human,
And I can't speak for you, but going through it with you, I know like you grew him. You pushed him out. You breastfed him. He was like that. That was literally 2 years out the gate, just growing him and breastfeeding him for a year. That he was basically yours. Like I was just there to make sure you were okay. And so I know that when that diagnosis came out, there was feelings of you felt like it was your fault, that you did something wrong in the pregnancy, that you did something wrong while you were breastfeeding, that it was your fault that your kid was autistic.
Mhm.
And that's yeah, how you know what I mean? You so to say like, "Hey, your kid doesn't look autistic,"
Mhm.
we've had him the whole time. You're his mom. Like, obviously we know.
Mhm.
We're not playing with it. It's not, you know?
No, there's a lot of blame. There's a lot of what what didn't I do? What could I have done differently?
You were
Um,
pissed because you took Tylenol once
y
during your pregnancy.
Mhm.
You were mad because you took Tylenol once because you had a headache.
Yep. And I also had a very difficult I had a very difficult conception.
Yep.
Took us a very long time to get pregnant, so I was taking, Clomid for a very long time and blood work and, whatever. And then when I got pregnant, I had a very difficult pregnancy. I was very, very sick, very sick. I
Yeah, that
couldn't
morning sickness was real.
I couldn't keep, food down, and I couldn't even keep water down. Like, I literally could not keep anything down to the point where I had to go to oh, Judy, thanks. I had to go to the emergency room and be pumped full of fluid because I was so dehydrated, and I had to make that choice, after that to go to the doctor and say, "I cannot keep anything down. Nothing. Nothing. Not even water." And we have wanted this baby for so long, and it's unhealthy for him, obviously, because I am not okay. I can't eat anything and I can't drink anything. So I had to make the decision to take medicine to help with the nausea, to help with the morning sickness, to be able to keep stuff down. And that obviously they say that those types of medicines have been linked to autism.
Yeah.
And so you have that judgment of, well, you shouldn't take the medicine. And then there's the blame of, against my own body. That's like my body was failing me and failing my kid, but I did the best that I could. And then when he was born, beautiful, healthy, big
Yeah.
baby,
Big old
big baby,
9 pounds, 22.5 inches,
long,
big ass
huge
head,
baby,
giant head. Holy crap.
healthy baby. And him and I fought the fight to exclusively breastfeed.
Yep.
We did not give him formula. That was something I was very, very adamant about. And him and I fought hard for that. And
Yep.
so after that, after being able to take the medicine, being able to feed and nurture him while he was in my body, having him healthy, successful delivery, and giving him the best sort of milk possible, which was coming from my own body, I felt like I did everything right. And so when you feel like you do everything right to care for your baby, and then you get told that your son is autistic, and then all of the other stuff comes up of like, well, you made this choice and you made that choice and this research says this and this research says this, and if you did, you eat this, did you not eat this, how could you do this, and whatever. Everything just feels like blame.
Yeah.
Everything feels like blame. And again, it wasn't until I was able to, and then that on top of it was the whole um postpartum that I went through, which was completely like I was completely consumed with him. I couldn't leave him
Yeah.
ever, and then feeling that and then having to deal with that and then his behaviors and all this type of stuff. Like as a mother, it's a lot. And so when you have someone, again, to go back to the initial statement, when you have someone that says, but he's not autistic, he doesn't look autistic, it's like
Screw you, bruh.
it's like you haven't been here.
Kenneth the lap. My wife is the same. She still blames herself constantly. It's not easy to convince her some things just happen. Word.
Hmm.
Like real talk.
Hmm.
And just like you were about to say, yeah, you haven't been here. Dude, you weren't the one that gave birth. You weren't the one that did everything you possibly could. You weren't the dad that was there for the mom the entire time and made sure the mom felt good and was happy or took care of the other kids that you already have or you know whatever. You don't know. This isn't like a 2-hour thing where they have a behavior or they might not understand something or they might not want to switch classes or whatever. And then they're fine the rest of the day and you don't have to try to understand them the rest of the day because you taught them something and they get it.
Mhm.
That's not what this is.
Mhm.
This isn't, you know, oh well, he's in a mood right now. No, he's not in a mood. This is who he is.
Mhm.
Whether he's nonverbal, whether he has trouble understanding emotions, whether he's fixated on trains and tires and Bluey and whatever book he's in now,
Yep.
it's all day.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not 30 minutes. It's all day.
Well, and the thing is too is that, and I didn't start saying this until I found an autistic mom group that I, occasionally jump into and whatever. But I also feel like in communities it's also hard because there is such a big spectrum of like,
Of course.
not, I mean, I guess judgment in a way, but not meaning to be judged because we all are on the spectrum because we have children on the spectrum. Um, but I used to not tell people that he was autistic. I just was like, I don't feel the need that I need to. And it was after having a conversation with one of the moms, and I was like, you talk so openly and you talk so proudly about the fact that your son has autism and is autistic. Why do you do that? And she's like, because it's not something to be ashamed of, and it's not something that we should hold in because other people are going to judge him. It actually brings more kindness. It actually brings a little bit more understanding. And so now whenever our son is starting a new program, meeting a new teacher, anything like that, being involved in community stuff, going to the library, anything like that, I will have a conversation with the
Yeah.
coach. And I just say, I just want to let you know that my son is autistic. And then I get the response, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, no, no, no,
No.
that's not why I'm telling you. What I'm saying to you, and the importance of me telling you, is so that you have an understanding or just a little bit more patience to understand who he is.
He
But please don't use it as a crutch.
Crutch.
Please don't use it as an excuse to not explain to my child that rules are rules. Gymnastics, for instance, rules are rules. You have to pay attention. You have to follow the rules. You have to not yell and whatever. He follows those rules. And if he doesn't follow those rules, then he is just like every other kid.
And he knows that he goes
He
sits
needs
down.
to go and sit down and take a break until he is ready. And that's why I was saying before that it's not that we use it as a crutch, we use it as an understanding of information. Like
Yeah.
information. And that's why with his diagnosis, it's information so that we can get the support that he needs, so that we can help him thrive in the world. Because again, we're raising like he will be an adult at some point, and it's our responsibility to give him all the tools that he needs to be a successful adult, but not diminishing or understanding the challenges that he has. Yes, he's still young. We got to get through puberty. That's going to be a whole nother conversation, and I'm sure the parents in here that potentially have children with autism
Yeah.
as teens or young adults, or we've all seen or heard or seen something on the internet or whatever, is that's a whole nother conversation,
That's a whole nother
a whole nother,
ball game.
yeah. That's a whole nother time. We're just in, he's still young. But for us, it's important for us to start having these conversations now so that he does know the right and wrong. He does know those type of things. Because if I don't teach him because he's autistic, I'm setting him up to fail.
Judy Reed, we are such a judgmental society. This is really eye-opening. I appreciate your vulnerability, being open about this. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think we thought it was time,
Mhm.
especially since the subjects come up.
Mhm.
And because there's a lot of challenges that we're coming into in the summer and the new year. So yeah, I thought we'd kind of try to talk about this.
Mhm.
And then, Jake, I like this. I'd argue many are ignorant of what autism actually is. Yeah, it's hard with that because the spectrum is so big, right? You have kids that are nonverbal, have behaviors all the time.
Mhm.
They can't not, sound any kind of loud sound at any point in time causes behaviors, whatever. But the problem is with that is that people know that they're autistic, right? So it's okay. they can't help themselves. They can't, they're nonverbal, the behavior, the sound, the light, the whatever, they're fine. A kid like ours, who people say doesn't look autistic, they get more frustrated with a kid like ours because they think our kid should behave as any other well-behaved kid should behave and that he doesn't have challenges,
Mhm.
right? So because the spectrum is so big,
Mhm.
I
And it
think
does really feel
I
like
mean, it does come
everything.
down to education, Jake. You're not
Yeah.
wrong. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with that too. It really does. It's the
I mean, again, just talking about our kid or whatever, his kindergarten year is the reason that he is thriving
as well as he
as
is.
well as he is. And that comes down to education,
And
Jake, like
having
you
a
said,
teacher,
and
yeah.
having a badass teacher. Like he had a badass teacher for the entire year to the point where this teacher even advocated very, very hard for him to be able to go into summer school and have that summer school challenge with him too.
Yeah.
And he was able to knock off some of those behaviors very quickly because his teacher was like, it doesn't fly here.
Yeah.
And so he didn't use it. And this was obviously before he actually officially got diagnosed, but we all kind of, with the more conversations that we had, we kind of all had an idea and felt like that he was on the spectrum. But his teacher was like, I'm not using this as an excuse. I'm using this as an understanding. And how can we support him in a way that's going to help him thrive? And because of that primal year, that kindergarten year, and that teacher, and even continuing now into the teachers that he has now, they are the reason that he is thriving as much as he is right now and where he is. And if it wasn't for strong people like that, then and strong support that he has, as well as what's important to you and I, baby, and what we do and how we support him at home, like it really is a team effort. And we're just very fortunate that we have a strong team and that we still continue and will always advocate to have a strong team around him.
I think the coolest thing that I can use as an example of how it is that he gets taught and how he communicates, right? We've taught him his entire life that in order, if he wants to have a conversation, or if you and I are talking and he has to say excuse me. So
Mm-hmm.
we taught him that, right? So he'll come say excuse me, but if you don't look at him immediately, then he'll say excuse me again. And then if you don't look at him immediately again, he'll say excuse me again.
And then he gets frustrated.
And then he gets frustrated, and then we get frustrated, and then we're like, I said wait, and then it just
because we're trying to teach him patience,
right.
under like that you don't always get what you want right away, like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But it wasn't really working. It
Mhm.
wasn't, he just wasn't grasping that whole thing, like, hey, if you say excuse me, that means I heard you, and when I'm done with this conversation, then I'll come back to you and address you.
Mhm.
It wasn't getting there.
Mhm.
So a friend of mine happened to be at lunch with us, and we were sitting, and he was excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. So she literally sat there, and she's very well versed in ADHD and autism and neurodivergence in general, but she kind of taught him, hey bud, just put your hand down on the table, I'll see it, I'll touch your hand, and then when I'm ready to talk to you, I'll talk to you. But my hand touching your hand means I see you, I acknowledge you, and I know that you want to talk to me. And now he thrives with it. He literally will not say anything. He will just put his hand on the table, or he'll grab your hand wherever it is.
Mhm.
And then he'll stand there and wait until you turn around and say, hey, bud, what'd you need?
Mhm.
But just that physical contact, me to him, means he knows that you saw him.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
it's just
And that just
it's a
shows.
way of communication that you
Yes.
and even we are still learning.
Mhm.
It's not, again, there's no written handbook for any of this or any kid.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes,
Yes,
Ken.
Ken.
Huge.
Yeah,
Yep.
small wins are just,
They are huge.
it's and it does, like, I'm sitting here just being like, "Oh, he did it again." Like, he made
Mhm.
another, like, he's gonna be able to walk into a room and just
Mhm.
grab his teacher's hand, and his teacher will acknowledge him when
Yep.
she's ready.
Yep.
And now he's not being disruptive. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Small
exactly
wins
it.
are huge. They're absolutely huge. And I just I grin, I smile, and because he has come so far, and obviously there's still so much more to learn, and but we are very much parents that are like, I'm not done learning. And as long as we're all moving in the same direction to help him continue to grow and to thrive, we're willing to listen and try something new
Yeah.
and try it a different way. And we just want our kid to be happy and healthy and safe. And that's literally what we want to do.
So thanks, guys. I really do appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. If Jan Clark is still in here, or if anybody Wednesday, Jan Clark, you said it. You physically said it. I have it in my DM.
Mhm.
So I'm putting you on blast in front of all your friends. You're supposed to be coming on Wednesday. Guys, bother him because he said it. Okay. All
Yep.
right. Judy Reed, Kenneth, if Jeff number 1 is in here,
Anybody else is in here?
Jake,
Yep.
Jake the
Always.
Snake, Chapman.
Always.
Love you guys.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
and we
Appreciate you.
we are always interested in connecting with families that have a
Yeah,
child with autism.
please.
Please reach out. These are our Instagram handles. Would love to continue, this series of learning life on the spectrum, and many, many different perspectives is the way that we all learn. We learn together, we grow together, and it's better in a community and it's better on a team. And so we would love anybody that would be interested in just having a conversation or
Yeah.
ever want to jump on one of our Learning Life on the Spectrum podcasts to just talk about being parents, doing the best that we can, and things that work and
Out
things
here
that
trying to
don't.
survive, baby. Out here trying to survive.
We're trying to raise really good kids, and it comes down to just loving them and understanding them the best that we can and continuing to help them grow. So appreciate you guys, and
Yeah.
we'll see you on the
Thank
next
you.
one.
Do appreciate you so much. Love ya.
Bye, guys.
Deuces.